What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. All right, so before I get into his video, shout out to the brother Elijah Merritt for the $50 donation via the Cash App. Much respect for showing love once again to Too Raw for TV. Longtime subscriber, been subscribed to me since 2015, fan of the Golden State Warriors. You know what I'm saying? Been rocking with me for a decade. Salute to you. So, last night the Warriors defeated the pretender New York Knicks, and on NBA on TNT, Shaquille O'Neal made a declaration saying that he demands that fans start putting Steph Curry in the GOAT conversation, saying, quote, "I demand you fans start putting Steph Curry in the greatest of all time conversation. I played against Mike, played with Kobe, played against and with LeBron. They're all great, but at some point, we're going to have to put Steph Curry in that category." Now, to be fair, you didn't go against Mike his whole career. You went against Mike from 93, in the 92-93 season, and then you went against Mike in the 95 postseason, a little bit in that regular season toward the end, and 95 to 98. And then, of course, the Wizard years. But you didn't go against the whole meat of his career. You didn't go up against him from 84 to 92, the meat of his greatness. You didn't. But anyway, no, he's not in the GOAT conversation to me. No, he's the greatest shooter of all time, and he's the greatest three-point shooter of all time. But that's not all of what basketball encompasses. I'm sorry. I just don't think that he belongs in the GOAT conversation. Now, if you're talking about the GOAT conversation as far as point guard, okay, we can have that conversation. But this is my problem with this. If we're going to put Steph Curry in the GOAT conversation because, well, he's in the GOAT conversation for point guard and he's a great shooter, blah, blah, blah. Someone explain to me why Tim Duncan's not in the GOAT conversation. Someone give me a logical explanation as to why Tim Duncan's not in the GOAT conversation. If you could do that, then I'll say, okay, well, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe Steph Curry should be. Because to me, Tim Duncan's resume supersedes Steph Curry. All this proves to me is that people have a tremendous bias when it comes to offensive players or shooting. This generation has a disgusting bias when it comes to shooting, because we equate ball handling and shooting with skill. And centers, post play, rebounding, you know what I'm saying, rim protection, boxing out, we don't appreciate any of that shit. We don't look at that as skill. Shot blocking, we'll say, oh, well, they're big. They're supposed to do that. There's a terrible bias against big men in this era. Terrible bias, and it's disgusting. I'm seeing people praising, you know, guys now say, oh man, they play on both sides of the ball. You know, like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he plays on both sides of the ball. That's great. That's great. But Giannis plays on both sides of the ball, and people don't care. Oh, I wish I could run up and down the court and dunk all day. Well, I'm pretty sure that point guards who were expected to be point guards and pass first point guards in the past, like Kevin Porter and John Stockton, you know, for the most part, Bob Cousy, although he could score. I'm pretty sure Rod Strickland. I'm pretty sure Jason Kidd. I'm pretty sure pass first point guards, which, man, I wish I could rub it down the court and shoot threes all day or shoot all day. Now they can't. So it's like, look, man, at the end of the day, Steph Curry's a great player. But no, I just don't see him in that GOAT conversation. Number one, the players that he mentioned, LeBron James, who I despise, Michael Jordan, Kobe's a different animal because Kobe wasn't given the keys to the kingdom initially. You know what I'm saying? So I can't really put Kobe in that conversation as far as this because he was not given many minutes. But all of the all-time greats, Kareem, Wilt, all the guys who were able to go to a franchise and be impactful from the beginning, they all vastly improved their teams from the year before. With Curry, I don't know if they made any improvement. They might have lost more games his first year than the year before. There wasn't much improvement. The team didn't get better until they acquired Draymond Green, until they acquired Klay Thompson, until they acquired Harrison Barnes, until they acquired Andre Iguodala. That's when they got better. Now, Steph Curry is a much better player now than when he was drafted in his early years. And he has gotten better on the defensive and all that, but I just don't see I don't see a GOAT level player with Steph Curry. I just don't see it. I don't. Not in his accomplishments, not in his statistical achievements. I don't see it. I don't even know if this guy had 20,000 points yet. Does he have 20,000? Maybe he does, and I just didn't notice it. No, he's at 24,000. Something wrong on that one. Whoa, okay. All right, that snuck up on me. I don't remember people mentioning that. So he's at 24,945 points. Okay. So I was wrong in that. I apologize. I was wrong. So he shoots 47% from the floor, 42% from three-point range, 91% from the line. 24,945 points. How many assists does this guy have in his career? 6,452. That's very, very low. 6,452 assists, 3,134 turnovers. So he has about a little bit better than 2-to-1 assist turnover ratio. That's okay, but that's on the level of LeBron James and Russell Westbrook. So, 1,530 career assists. He did lead the league in assists, total assists twice, led the league in steals once. I don't know, man. He has one Finals MVP. I mean, because look, are we saying if he's in the GOAT conversation, are we saying that he's better than Larry Bird now? He's better than Magic. He's better than Akeem Olajuwon, more impactful than Akeem Olajuwon. I don't agree with any of that. You know what I'm saying? I don't see him as a top 10 player. And people could disagree with me. We fine. I'm just not swayed by anybody's arguments. I don't see a top 10 guy. And that's not me hating. That's just my opinion. And that's nothing that gets on my fucking nerves. It's gotten to a point in our society where people cannot respect other people's opinions. I don't see a GOAT level player, Steph Curry. I see a guy that's top 15. And that's tremendous, top 15. But I don't see a GOAT level guy. You know, if people can disagree if they want to, they think he's top, they think he's in the GOAT conversation, fine. They can make an argument or whatever. I've heard all the arguments. I just don't see it. I don't see him being at that level. Another thing that gets on my nerves. I know that players need help in order to be successful. But I don't like how we tend to penalize KD for joining those super teams, right? And winning 2 titles. But we don't penalize Steph Curry for willingly taking a secondary role and being on 2 of those super duper teams. We don't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't penalize the Dwayne Wades of the world for being on those same teams. We don't penalize Klay Thompson and Draymond Green at least a little bit from benefiting on those great teams as well. Because if KD wasn't on those teams, is it a given that they would have beaten Cleveland in 2017 and 18? Especially in 2017 when Kyrie was still there? Now, 2022, Steph Curry redeemed himself with that one and finally won the elusive Finals MVP. He finally got an Olympic gold medal. But, I mean, when I look at some of these other players and their resumes, I just, no. Like I said, I don't think that he's greater than Tim Duncan. And Tim Duncan has one of the most tremendous resumes. But because there's a bias against big men versus perimeter players, Tim Duncan doesn't get the same love. Tim Duncan is never talked about when it comes to the GOAT conversation. Tim Duncan's a guy I think should be in that conversation. That people say, well, Tim Duncan played with, you know, David Robinson. They'll say that he played with Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Kawhi Leonard. Sure, he did. But Steph Curry, he has played with Jimmy Butler. He has played with Andre Iguodala, who may be a Hall of Famer one day. He's played with Klay Thompson, who's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's played with KD. You know what I'm saying? He's played with Boogie Cousins. He's played with some great players. Monta Ellis, some years ago, this is before they were great. He was a 24, 25 point per game scorer in his best years. So he's played with some great talent in Golden State. So I don't know. And it's not like I'm dissing him. I'm not. But we're having a GOAT conversation here. A GOAT conversation. GOAT. Okay? Not top 10, top 15. Shaq is saying we have to put him in the GOAT conversation. Then that, I'm sorry, now you're putting him against the creme de la creme de la creme of the NBA. And I don't see it with Steph Curry. Not GOAT. Now, if you're talking about GOAT point guard, okay, there's an argument there. But as I said before, I just don't think he's as great as Magic Johnson or as dominant as Magic Johnson. Now, you could talk about, you know, Steph is doing it with different players as far as winning. Yeah, but what is this stretch we're talking about here? We're talking about a stretch of 10 fucking games with Jimmy Butler, where they're playing a relatively weak schedule. You know what I'm saying? It's like they're beating some world beaters. Let's be honest. Are they really beating any fucking body? The Knicks are like 0-8 or 0-9 against the top tier team in the NBA. So, I mean, that's not really saying anything. When the Warriors go on a run and they actually go to the conference finals or they win a championship, then we can make those historical assessments. We live in this ridiculous era now where players can just have one great game and all of a sudden we're having a historical argument or conversation about it. Yes, Steph had a 56-point night in an era where it's so much easier to score. when these guys have the green light to shoot 23s in games now. Remember back in, what was it, 93, 94, 95, one of those years, Dennis Scott shot 19 threes in the game, and he got killed for doing that. And Dennis Scott was a great three-point shooter, and he got killed for taking that many threes in the game. That's par for the course now. That's par for the course to do that. So that's all I got to say about it, I'm hating, I don't care. Yeah, I'm hating it, okay? If you think that I'm hating because I don't think that he's a GOAT, then I'm hating. You talking about shooting? Absolutely, he's the GOAT. If you're talking about, because let's look at this. Well, I'm not even certain if Steph Curry technically belongs in the point guard conversation, because he's not really a point guard in the traditional sense that I remember watching what a point guard is. He's not he's not the greatest passer. He's not a great floor general. He's not the best playmaker. He doesn't play in a traditional point guard way. See, Isaiah Thomas, that's the thing about Isaiah Thomas. That's why I'm convinced, as much as I don't like Isaiah Thomas, I think if he was playing today and he had the modern skills of the point guard today as far as shooting the basketball, Isaiah Thomas would be the GOAT point guard, I think, in the history of the game. Because he could play like a John Stockton, but he could score one-on-one like at least a Kyrie Irving, or probably a Steph Curry. He probably added 3-ball in his game. Now, I don't know if he'll be able to shoot quite like Steph, but I could see him scoring. He could score one-on-one like a Kyrie Irving. He could score one-on-one like a point guard, he could score one-on-one like a Kyrie Irving, like a Steph Curry. But he could also run an offense like John Stockton. He could do that when he was having an off game. He could be John Stockton. He had that skill set. He could also play make in a way, like Magic, if he chose to. Matter of fact, wasn't it Isaiah Thomas that pretty much created the fast break bounce pass? Like when guys run up the court, well, I don't want to say created, but didn't he kind of perfect the fast break bounce pass? It's almost like like when the guy's trailing to the basket for a layup, or almost used for a layup. He's the one that helped isn't he basically the one that created that? I remember hearing about that. But yeah, Isaiah Thomas, if you're talking about point guards, then we're having another conversation. And technically, I don't know if he's in that conversation. I get what people are saying, but that's what I'm talking about with Steph Curry. Like, he doesn't play like a traditional point guard. So we're talking about the skill set of a traditional point guard. I don't know if Steph's even in that conversation. But if we're talking about a guy that's been labeled point guard, is he the GOAT? Okay, yeah. So it's like technicalities within that conversation. But anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Tell me what you guys think.